Okay, let's get into this, shall we? Welcome to the Ultimate Audition Game Plan. If you don't know who I am, I'm Dean Graham. I'm an actor and an acting coach. As an actor, I've worked in everything from immersive theatre, short films, to the West End, to TV with ITV Channel 4. I've been in shows that have been seen on Sky, Netflix. I've worked in every one of all of the most amazing theatres in the UK. And as an acting coach, I've worked with everyone from absolute beginners who are just starting out on their journey as an actor to huge global stars, leads in massive global series. So I've worked with everyone. And one of the joys that I get out of being an acting coach is I get to help actors move to that next level of their career, and I get to celebrate those wins with them as well. And I also get to create systems to help actors in that journey, in that progression, because I love the industry, even though it is really, really stressful at times and it can be a really difficult place to be. I really believe that with the right support and the right community, you can really smash your career goals and you have an incredible, exciting career. So one of the things that I love to do is to be able to create systems to help actors on that journey. And this is one of them, the Ultimate Audition Game Plan. So why do we need a game plan when it comes to auditioning? We need a game plan because we need to make the most of these opportunities. This is an extremely competitive industry that we're in. And without really good strategy, it means that we're kind of leaving it up to chance as much as, a lot of it is up to chance, of course, but all of the things that we can control, we should control. So having a really good strategy when it comes to auditioning is so important. So I've put this together for you, this Ultimate Audition Game Plan. This is something that I share with my coaching clients. And hopefully this will be really, really useful to you too. So let's get into it, shall we? What is the first thing that we should be looking at when it comes to auditioning? We have to start with preparation. If we're not preparing for our roles, for our auditions, we are leaving everything up to chance. We're essentially just closing our eyes and throwing whatever at the wall and hoping that it sticks. So we need some really, really solid preparation. So what should we be focusing on? What do we actually need to do in order to prepare ourselves fully for the audition that is coming up? For me, it always starts with reading everything. Read everything that you get sent over. And I know that sometimes we have like a very limited time. Sometimes you'll get an audition the night before for to be in by midday the next day. And it is not ideal. So I understand that reading everything that you possibly can is impossible. But let's get into the things that you could be reading. First of all, we want to read the audition brief. What has our agent sent to us, or what has the casting director sent to us if we're not represented? Let's read that everything. That's going to give us so many clues as to what we want to be aiming for in this audition. So the second thing that we should be reading is, of course, the sides. So these are the audition scripts that get sent to us, the ones that we're going to be reading in the audition. Do not walk into an audition having to read the sides for the first time. That is the worst game plan imaginable. Get familiar with the sides that you've been sent. Next up, we want to read whatever of the rest of the script that we've been given. Sometimes if we're auditioning for a TV show, we might only get sent one episode. Sometimes we won't be sent it at all, but we read whatever we can that we have been sent. If we've been sent a play, sometimes if we're auditioning for a TV show, we might be sent the entire series to read. So we want to consume as much of that as possible if we have the time to do so. And next up, we want to maybe read the director bio, or the casting director bio, or the writer's bio, or the producer's bio. Understanding, getting a history of what those creatives have worked on before is going to give us a really good idea, a really good sense of the world that we're entering with this audition. So understanding that, like, if you were auditioning for example, if you were auditioning for a Yorgos Lanthimos movie back in the day, he's sort of moved on, his style has developed more recently, but back in the day, if you were auditioning for a Yorgos Lanthimos movie, we would be removing a lot of that emotional intention behind the work that we're making. We wanted to put these sides out extremely muted, extremely plain almost. So understanding who that director is, what kind of projects that casting director's worked on before, what kind of work the writer's worked on before, understanding those things can give us a load of clues to what we are going to be trying to try and achieve in our audition. But as I say, sometimes you just don't have the time to do that. So this is in kind of order of priority. First of all, we want to be reading that audition brief, getting whatever information that we can from the information that is sent us about the audition. Not just the date and the time, please do turn up on time, but everything else that might have a project outline, it might have a character description. So that audition brief is so useful. Then we read the sides, then we read the script, and if we do have time, we will do a little bit of research, do a little bit of stalking into who this director, who this casting director, who this writer, who this producer is. All of that's going to give us really useful information when it comes to the choices that we're going to make in our audition. So next up, in terms of preparation, we want to do our script analysis. So with the sides that we have been given, we want to get into the nitty-gritty of what is going on for this character. And that can come in the form of the big picture, what's going on in the entire play, what's going on in the entire scene, understanding the given circumstances, all of those who, what, where, why, when, all of those questions, the things the details that help us structure a performance, the beats, the unit shift, breaking down our script into playable units, objectives, tactics, what our character is doing, what they want, how they're trying to get it. And the subtext, what is the meaning behind all of this stuff? And the character arc, especially if you're auditioning for like a series regular, understanding where that character is going. We can plant the seeds of where that character might be going in those earlier scenes. So having a really good script analysis system is so useful. If you do want a really concise system, you can check out my script analysis course, Script Analysis for Actors. It's absolutely optional, obviously, but you can check that out. That gives you a really nice, really good, concise structure for approaching your scripts to give yourself the best chance of doing really, really effective script analysis and bringing those characters to life in your audition. So you can check that out. I'll stick a link down below if you want to check that out. Next up in preparation, we want to be making unique choices. We want to make choices that stand out. This is something that's coming up a lot recently, is especially because now we are in the world, in the realm of self-tapes. We are in the age of self-tapes, which is great for a lot of reasons because more people can be seen for a part. It means that it's more open, more people can be considered. But one of the downsides of that is that because casting directors and casting assistants are seeing a lot of tapes over and over and over and over, it's very easy to get lost. So we as actors, when we're approaching auditions, we need to start to think how we can make unique choices. And we can do this in a couple of ways. One is by becoming really familiar with the script, doing really good script analysis, so we can see what they might want to get out of us and trying to find new ways into it. So one of the ways that you might do that is if you're given a scene, you might play that as if you're angry and see what comes up for you. You might play that scene as if you're extremely sad about something, or you might play that as if the other character is irritating you, just to kind of find new ways into it. And sometimes new choices can emerge from that. Another way of doing it is just by winging it. There is one of my friends, he did book a TV show because he hadn't read the brief properly. And I'm not saying rely on this. It is a really unreliable system. It is just a fun anecdote. But he sent this tape to his agent for an enormous TV series. It was a small part, as a day player part on this enormous TV series. And he realized, he went back and he read the brief and he was like, oh my God, I've completely got that wrong. And he went to call his agent, and his agent got back to him and said that he'd booked it. And one of the reasons why that will have happened is because out of all of the tapes that were doing exactly the same thing over and over, he stood out. Now, I'm not saying that you should rely on just doing completely the wrong thing. Please do try and make your choices make sense within the world of the play, or within the world of the TV show, within the world of the film that you're auditioning for. But try and stand out, try and find new ways in that they aren't going to have seen before, that they aren't going to have seen that day. So make really interesting, unique choices as best that you can. We do have a module of that we have a bonus module on making unique choices in the script analysis course. So if you did want to check that out, that is there for you too. Also be direction ready. If a casting director or director is going to be interested in working with you, they will undoubtedly put you to the test with direction. They will ask to read, even if your reading of something was perfect and exactly what they were looking for, they need to know that you're capable of taking direction. So they will give you some. They will give you a gear shift. They will throw something into the mix just to see how you respond to it. So being direction ready is such a useful thing. Again, that can be done by just making some unique choices, just trying other things out, trying this scene as if you were in a rush, trying this scene as if you had to get out of there really soon, trying that scene as if you had to keep the noise down because environmentally there's someone listening next door. Trying different things with your scenes is going to bring you that flexibility. So when you're in the room, you don't get startled. You don't feel like you're locked into your own idea and your way of doing things. You need to be flexible. So being able to work those muscles is really, really useful. And then finally in preparation, please learn your lines. I know that there is a lot of talk, casting directors saying that they want to see you in process. When they bring you in for an audition, they want to see your work in progress. They don't want to see the finished product. So sometimes they like you having the sides on you. Be prepared. Like, I cannot stress this enough. Even if they want to see that, you holding the script, they do not want to see your face in the script. So don't rely on having the script there to know what your lines are. Learn them first. If you ever need to refer to the script, if you're in the room, then you can. It's there for you. But don't rely on it. Don't keep looking back on it. Looking back at your script breaks that engagement. It breaks that eye contact. It breaks your emotional flow in that scene. So don't rely on the script. Please learn your lines, even if you're just holding them there performatively, just so that the casting director knows it's a work in progress, but you're completely off book and you know everything that you're saying. That is a much more advantageous position to be in. Knowing your lines inside and out and having flexibility with them is so useful. If you want a system for learning lines a little bit faster and in a way that's actually primed for performance so that you can find that flexibility in your lines, then please do check out Line Master. That's my other course. That's my only other recommendation, I promise. That you can check out Line Master. It gives you my own personal system that I've coached over 1,000 actors in using. And it will just help you take those words off the page a little bit faster and prime yourself for being flexible and alive while you're reading them. So check out the Line Master system as well. I'll link that down below if you want to take a look. But again, absolutely optional. So check it out if you're interested. And next up, we are looking at delivery. So we've done all of our prep. We've read everything that we wanted to read. We've learned our lines. We've done our script analysis. We've made really interesting choices. Now we are delivering our audition. So what do we want to be doing when we're delivering our audition? We want to be the most obvious yes. Now, I can't remember what casting director said this, that I can attribute this to, but I heard it somewhere on Instagram. But it was one of the things that really stuck with me, being the most obvious yes. It's about essentially removing friction points to that casting director booking you. And one of the easiest ways that you can do that is with your costume choices. Now, with costume choices, if you're going up for a period part, we're not going in completely dressed in period with a powdered wig and a painted face and a ruff. We don't want to be doing that, but we want to be dressing in a way which suggests that part. If we can kind of get away with fully dressing like that part, then why not? Then you should. If you're walking into a casting office where that casting director doesn't know you and that director doesn't know you, and we're talking about a modern part in the modern day, then do it. Dress pretty much like that part, that character could just be plopped straight into that series. But if you're going up for example, parts that are uniformed parts like policemen or firemen, just dress in something that suggests that you could be in that part. So, for example, you wouldn't wear like a full police uniform if you were going into audition for a police officer, but you would wear a shirt and you would wear shoes and you would wear trousers. You wouldn't wear jeans and a t-shirt and trainers. So just making those choices, whatever choices that you can that lean towards that part, is really, really important. And that is whether you're doing a self-tape, whether you're doing an in-person audition, or whether you're doing a Zoom. Any of those audition mediums, you want to be dressing the part-ish. So make good costume choices. Next up, we're looking at in the room. So what can we do to give ourselves the best chance of booking an audition when we're going into the room? Now, number one is going to be calm your nerves. If you are a particularly nervous person, I have one piece of advice for you, and it is box breathing. Box breathing is the most useful tool. I've used it loads. I suggest it to all of my coaching clients. Even if you just have a few nerves, if you're quite used to auditioning, there is no harm in when you're in that waiting room just doing a little bit of box breathing. And it's a really, really simple system. It is breathing in for 4 seconds, holding for 4 seconds, breathing out for 4 seconds, and holding for 4 seconds again, and repeating that in a sequence of 4 over and over and over again. And what that does is it activates your parasympathetic nervous system. So this is the rest and digest state it's called rest and digest. It's essentially like the calm mode for your body. And what that does is it reduces your sympathetic nervous response, which is nerves, which is when we're in fight or flight. So it just reduces that stress down. Now, you don't need to remove those nerves completely. A little bit of nerves is quite useful. It's slightly energizing, but we want to get out of that extreme panic situation, or where our heart is racing, our palms are sweating, and we're in a state of panic. We want to remove that so that we can make clear choices, so that we can be calm in the room. If you walk into an audition room and it's very, very clear that you're nervous, they're going to be less inclined to book you because they'll be worried about what you might be like on set or what you might be like on stage. So walking into that room calm, clear-headed, that's going to set you up really, really well for success. So if you're someone who particularly suffers with nerves, do some box breathing in the waiting room. Just in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. And when you first start doing that, very often you will be breathing quite quickly. So try and reduce that count. Try and at least make it 4 seconds. Don't be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Try and reduce that down so it's really, really slow breathing. Bring your sympathetic nervous response down. Bring those nerves down so that when you walk into that audition room, you're calm. You're in that rest and digest mode. You are absolutely calm and ready to make good choices. One of my best pieces of advice is to treat that audition room like it is your first day of rehearsal. It is such an amazing energy to walk in to the room feeling like flexible and feeling like this is a collaboration and feeling like you're in process and not necessarily having to deliver perfect all the time. You're in a conversation, a creative conversation about how this scene is played. And it's such an empowering state to step into. And it also gives that director and that casting director an idea of what it will actually be like to work with you. So you're putting it in their mind what it is actually like to work with you by treating that audition room like it's the first rehearsal. It gives you so much more flexibility in terms of the choices that you make. You don't feel apologetic. You feel like you're safe to try things out. It's one of my top tips for finding a really great energy to go into an audition room with. And finally, be personable and curious. Like, I think that there's this myth that's going around that like being kind of stuck up and arrogant is actually quite useful in an audition room. And it is not. Arrogant people are also can be very charming people too. And they go into an audition room and they're very charming and they're very personable. So don't go into an audition room thinking, oh, the moodier I am, the more likely I am to book this part. It is just not true. Be personable, be curious, ask questions, be someone who people want to work with in the audition room. It is absolutely invaluable. Next up is the self-tape. The self-tape is the most common audition that you will have. You'll be doing 90% self-tapes, if not more. So getting your self-tape right is absolutely essential. And that starts with a proper, correct setup. I'm not going to go too deep into this. There are tons of resources out on YouTube. I also have an ebook on the perfect self-tape setup. I'll link that below. If you want to have a look at it, you can. But we want to be doing it fundamentally with a blank background, with really good lighting. Either that's going to be natural light or it's going to be light, ideally from a softbox. And we want to be heard. We want to be using clear audio. So, for example, an iPhone or a good modern Samsung or whatever, they're undoubtedly going to be good enough. But making sure blank background, we're in the right costume, we're in the right costume choices for the show that we're doing. The framing is going to be a medium close-up, so head to mid-chest. Usually we can make slight concessions here and there when it comes to action and such. But ideally, that's what it wants to be. Neutral background, medium close-up, well lit, and we can hear you. That's the perfect self-tape setup. And doing a self-tape is different to doing the job. Because if you're doing a self-tape, if you're going to be in the show, for example, we're going to do a TV show and you book that TV show and you've got this really long scene, they're going to cut from a medium close-up of you to a close-up of someone else, back to a close-up of you to an over-shoulder shot. There's going to be so much that storytelling that's going to come out in the edit. And you don't have that luxury in a medium close-up, locked-off shot that you might be reading for an entire 2 minutes. So that means that we have to make slightly different choices in a self-tape than we would do in the actual job. We want to be keeping that interesting. We want to be keeping the frame interesting. That means bringing some movement in the frame. It means we're taking our gaze to various points where we're allowing those thoughts to exist off the screen. There's something that's really, really true, and it's especially true in theatre, that stillness is really powerful. Unfortunately, that isn't necessarily true of the self-tape. If we are going to be still, if we are going to be unblinking, we have to make sure that moment is significant. We can't do that throughout the whole tape. We have to make sure that if we're going to move into stillness, we are moving into stillness. We're coming from action into stillness. So trying to pitch the self-tape is a really, really tricky art form in itself. So my main piece of advice is, don't gesticulate wildly and don't look around the frame all of the time, but make clear physical and emotional choices that bring some texture to that experience of watching it, because we never get cut away from you. So we always need to be interested by you. So doing a self-tape is a really, really tricky art. But those things should be considered. And, work with a coach, work with other actors, work with, hire do a tape with a coach so that you can get that feedback on how interesting that one single locked off shot is. We need to be making interesting choices. We can't just be still and lifeless in the frame, especially while someone else is talking. My titles are all over the place. Okay, now we're looking at the Zoom audition. So the Zoom audition is probably my least favorite medium. I'm not a huge fan of the Zoom audition. It is a kind of weird hybrid between an in-person audition and the self-tape. It's like the speed dating of an in-person audition and like the BeReal. I don't know if you know BeReal, the social media thing where you kind of take a candid photo at a certain time of the day and you have like limited amount of takes. It's like a kind of like BeReal candid version of a self-tape audition. So it is a weird medium in and of itself, but the main considerations that you need to make are like set it up like a self-tape. Make sure that your backdrop is neutral. It's not quite as it's not quite as rigid a rule in Zoom auditions as it is with self-tapes, but try and have a clear background. Try and make sure that you're well lit. Make sure that the camera on your computer or the audio on your computer is working effectively. Make sure that you use the right settings in Zoom, like turn off the auto mic level thing and change it to like the musical one. Google it, but like make sure that the camera and the audio is perfect. You can use external cameras, you can use external audio equipment, but it is putting new things into the mix that might go wrong. And that is the last thing that you want, is to have technical difficulties during your Zoom audition. So if you've got a modern laptop, if you've got a modern desktop computer, the camera on that and the microphone on that should be enough. Just make sure that you're well lit and that you can be heard. And a performance consideration that you do have to make with the Zoom is the Zoom kind of sucks a bit of the energy out of your audition. So we are looking to kind of pitch up the energy of our audition ever so slightly, maybe 10 or 15%. That doesn't mean to, again, like over gesticulate or over express, but we are just bringing a little bit more, maybe slightly more vocal energy, maybe slightly more intention to the choices that we're making, because Zoom is kind of a bit of a dead medium. So we are trying to push through that with a little bit more energy. So those are the those are the considerations that you need to be making in in-person auditions, in self-tape auditions, and in Zoom auditions as well. So finally, we're going to look at just follow-ups and aftercare. There is a big question. Should you follow up with a casting director or should you not? Usually, if you have an agent, following up with a casting director is usually the wrong choice. Your agent will follow up if they want to give that casting director a nudge, if they want to say, hey, is my client still in the mix for this? I think they'd be really good for it. That is your agent's job. Your agent's job is to do that. Once you've done your audition, your agent should be taking it from there, trying to get you that recall or that callback, and trying to book you that job. If you don't have an agent, should you email? I would say don't hound a casting director to ask for a recall if you are unrepresented, if you're the one that's responsible for that communication. You don't want to leave a sour taste in that casting director's mouth. If they have seen you and you are not right for that role, they might see you again, but they probably won't if you are hounding them, asking them for a callback, asking them for a recall. But maybe it's more appropriate to send a thank you. I would probably say if you have to follow up with a casting director, which I would say is not always necessary, but it's going to be much better received, thank you so much for seeing me, like a few weeks down the line saying, thank you so much for seeing me. Obviously this one hasn't gone my way, but I really appreciate you seeing me for it. That's going to leave a much better taste in their mouth than being like, why didn't I get this job? Give me some feedback. Just take your feet off the gas pedal a little bit and try and put yourself in their shoes. They're seeing so many actors all the time. They don't want to be hounded all the time for callbacks. So if it's appropriate, send a thank you a few weeks down the line if you haven't booked the job or you haven't heard back from it. And finally, don't neglect the aftercare of auditions. Auditioning is hard. Like a really good, I was talking to an actor friend of mine today, and like a really good return on auditions is like a 5% conversion rate. If you can convert 5% of your auditions, you are doing so well. Like that's crazy numbers. Like booking 1 in 20 is incredible. Booking 1 in 50 is great, you know? So this is hard. Like it is a hard business, and you have to maintain optimism and you have to be able to take care of yourself. And sometimes it can be really hard to let go, especially if you haven't got another audition lined up. Moving on to another audition is one of the best ways of kind of moving on from the last one. But there was an amazing bit of advice from Michael B. Jordan. Was like, after every audition, he throws his sides away. And it is such good advice, because it is something that you are doing that is symbolically and physically leaving it in the past. And so I'm stealing that from Michael B. Jordan. It's some of the best advice I've ever heard. I tear up my sides. After every audition, I tear them up and throw them away. You can always reprint them. If you get a callback, if you get a recall, you can just print them again. But tearing it up, throwing them away, and drawing a line under it is some of the best advice that I can give you, and that Michael B. Jordan can give you on auditioning and aftercare and moving on and getting on with your life and putting it behind you. And remember remember that auditioning is your job. It's an opportunity to act. So treat those auditions like it is a 2 to 3 minute play that you get to do. You are getting to do your job by being in that room. So getting the audition is the win. Being in that audition room is the win. Don't look at auditioning like you're always trying to get a job. Look at it as the opportunity to do your job, and you will just enjoy doing that so much more. So that is it. That is my ultimate audition game plan. I hope that's been really useful for you. If you do really want to work with me a little bit more or use some more of my resources, the 2 things that I can suggest for you are going to be that Line Master for learning your lines in a way that's a little bit quicker and a little bit more better tuned for performance and flexibility in performance, and also the script analysis for actors course. And I'll link both of them below. That's going to really help you dig into the weeds of the audition material that you've got and make the best choices that you can, and also make the most interesting choices that you can from those scripts. So I'll link those down below. I hope this has been really helpful for you. Please do like and subscribe, tell your friends, share it, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much.